Welcome everyone to a casted game of Age of Empires 4, and today spawning on the east side of the map, playing in red, we've got crackedyhere playing as the Japanese, and his opponent on the west side of the map, representing Team Squiz. We've got Elyona playing as the Byzantines. Welcome everyone to Lippidy. That is the map for today, featuring two of the new civilizations as part of the Sultan's Ascent DLC. And well, I think this is going to be a great matchup. I guess it's probably the two most favourite civilizations out of the 6 that are available to us. I have to say, in recent videos, I have been asking you guys, like, which is your favorite civilization? And I've been a bit on the fence, and I've been kind of like, could it be Japanese? Could it be Byzantines? Could it be Ayyubids? There's obviously another 3 as well to add to that mix. But you know what? I feel like, for me, I found a new home with an Age of Empires 4 civilization. And it might be a controversial one, because I know we can't please everyone. But it's going to be the Japanese. And there's many reasons for this. I think the Japanese are a fantastic civilization, especially because of the fact they've got a couple of options. There's one little downfall with the Japanese, I feel, but it will come on to that. So they get the Cura Storehouse, which gets you free farms. I mean, what's not to like about that? But also you can get the upgrades for their town centre with the Daimyo Manor, Daimyo Palace, and their Shogunate Castle, which is like amazing in terms of the amount of boosting it gives for the harvest rate of your farms. 25%, 50%, 75%. What's not to like? But also they get some incredibly strong units, which hopefully we'll see today. But skipping over to the Byzantines, now I think it's going to be a very popular civilization as well. Pretty hard to play, quite complicated mechanics that revolve around the cistern, which is their economic building. Kind of everything about the economy for the Byzantines is rooted in the cistern and the aqueduct system. So this is going to be interesting because it's going to be increasing the gather speed by 5% at level 1 and then increases by 5% each water level. But also, of course, you've got the Conscriptio increasing the military production rate. You've got the Dialecticus increasing the research rate, and Presidium reducing the amount of damage that's taken on your buildings. I think with the Byzantines, though, they're still being figured out. There's 2 main landmarks that I think really dictate the playstyle, and it's the feudal age landmarks. Speaking of which, it's going to be the Grand Winery here for Elyona, going up with that, and I think, I don't know how strong this really is. It does give a nice boost in the early game with a little bit of early extra olive oil, which can pump out some mercenaries. But I feel like the Hippodrome at the moment is looking quite strong if you're like kind of being aggressive in the late game, raiding as well in particular. But alas, today we're going to be seeing the Grand Winery, and I'll be interested to see how Elyona decides to play this. On the other side of the map, we've got the Cura Storehouse, free farms. I love to see it. I have to say there is one little disappointing thing about the Japanese, I would say, is that the fact that the shinobi are blocked by the landmark you choose. Of course, you have to have the Cocker Township for that, and if you don't get that landmark, then you just can't get shinobi, which is a bit of a, I don't know, you know, with a really nice unique unit with all the abilities that it gives. It's a bit of a shame that you can't get that when you go for this particular Cura Storehouse landmark, especially because a lot of the civilizations, the new ones, do have a lot of bonuses and a lot of activatable abilities. You know, the Cataphract, they've got the Trample, you know, Jean d'Arc, obviously an obvious hero unit, and it just feels like, unfortunately, you kind of knack and not getting the shinobi there, but it is what it is. I think the Cura Storehouse is such a strong landmark, you kind of can't get it, can't not get it, because like it's free farms, and it's incredibly strong when you add that into the Daimyo Manor. Now, we have seen that the Japanese have been very heavily infantry based. I think they've got a really nice timing attack. When they do start to get to the late feudal age, early castle age, they can really apply a lot of pressure as long as they survive that time. I do think in many ways, especially in the way that the matchup is at the moment, the Byzantines versus Japanese, and the choices of the landmarks, the Grand Winery versus the Cura Storehouse, I think generally here at this point, the Byzantines might struggle in the early game. They're going to have to try and survive the best they can, because the Japanese, they have a really nice farming transition, which gets into that sort of 17, 18 minute mark. And we'll see, because the Japanese can start to flood a lot of units, especially when they start getting the Castle Age landmarks. Often we're seeing the floating gate landmark, which gives you 2 Yorishiro, and many more actually after that. And you can deposit them in different structures to give you various bonuses. In particular, military buildings, you can give you 200% increased production, which is kind of bonkers when you consider how much it is for the Conscriptio. Like when you reach 100%, that's when you're at your full water level of 5. I mean, if you think about it, just 1 Yorishiro in a production building increases the production for the Japanese by 200%. So they can get a really good boost of military production in sort of the mid to late game. So we do see the upgrade to the Daimyo Manor there, Crackedy. He's been heavy on stone for a while, and that's going to be boosting up the farms by 25% in terms of harvest speed, and he's already got 1 free farm, right? So it's kind of very, very nice indeed. In any case, it's kind of obviously not much happening at the moment in terms of military production, but they're cooking, they're getting there. We can see the early mercenary house. It's quite a common build at the moment with the Byzantines to go for the Grand Winery and then into the mercenary house. I feel like the Imperial Hippodrome hasn't been explored as much as it perhaps could be. It does seem like a really strong landmark, but obviously not seeing that today, and I think there's lots to be discovered, obviously, very early days with these two new civilizations. Quite heavy on gold. We do sometimes see crackedyhere getting a horseman or two, or we see even the ONLY Bannerman, and that's exactly what we see. We see the ONLY Bannerman today. I think Crackedy's been cooking some build orders, and this is actually a fantastic unit. Not only does it support other horsemen, or cavalry really, giving it a 15% extra damage, it actually has a shield on top of it, so each sort of attack that it takes, the first attack that it takes, whether it's melee or ranged, it just completely negates it. It's actually quite strong. It means you can dive underneath the town center, and the first hit, you can see, it just went down to 0, that shield. And it's going to survive for a bit longer, right? And it's actually really quite a strong unit. It's got a damage of 20 and a health of 230. So in many ways, rivals a early French Royal Knight. And I think it's an incredibly strong unit for raiding, especially when you add in a couple of horsemen. Speaking of which, the horsemen are in the south area, just pushing the villagers away from gold. Going to be harassing that village, trying to get the archery range up. Unfortunately, the ONLY Bannerman isn't actually with the two horsemen boosting up the attack speed. There are a couple of Limitinae for the Byzantines, and they'll take care of the ONLY Bannerman. Does take one villager out. Might die on the retreat. Will he be able to survive? I'm not so sure. I think goes down. He does. Now the Bannerman rather, does leave that little extra aura for 30 seconds. So you can see the horseman glowing still golden. Actually, only one horseman there in the scout. In any case, this early aggression for the Japanese does give him a bit of map control. A couple more horsemen heading forward. And he's going to be getting those sweet free farms. He's still on stone as well, so he might be looking to get that daimyo palace. What we often do see with the Japanese, you know, a lot of civilizations do open up with a second town center. Not the Japanese though in many ways. I think they seem to stick on one for quite some time. Especially because it's actually quite difficult to get to a second town center expansion because of the fact that they have to spend stone just to upgrade their primary town center. And it doesn't come cheap. You know, 300 stone, 600 stone, and then 1,200. It's not cheap at all. Speaking about stone, you do need to spend a lot of stone to get your cistern and aqueduct system up. Looks like elyona is doing that as we speak. Now there is possibly a case to make that you want to just try and get as many cisterns and aqueducts as you can, as early as you can, obviously within reason. So you can get that water level up and boosting of the villagers. I gotta say, the one thing that the devs did so good are the skins. They just look so good, these units. A lot of them as well. It's not just the Japanese, the Byzantines, the cataphracts, they look absolutely phenomenal. The Ayyubids and the Desert Raiders definitely don't look too shabby. We see another ONLY Bannerman. Another interesting thing about upgrading your town center to the daimyo manor is you get another Bannerman slot. So you can actually technically get 2 Bannermans now here, Crackedy. Going to be raiding that berry bushes line, and yeah, he's not going to get any villagers here, but a lot of weak villagers. Now he's going to go straight for that wood line. The main important thing is keeping a lot of villagers idle, right? Almost half the economy. He's only got 30 villagers to start off with. Now only 13, well 13 of them are idle. He's going to lose one on the peripheries of the economy, and now he's going to ride away. And Crackedy behind this. He's got to be a bit careful though, because there are a couple of Keshiks riding in. Obviously the unit from the Mongols, you might be wondering why is that? I mean, he's gone for the Eastern trading, or the contract, the mercenary contract, the Eastern mercenary contract. It means he can get access to the Keshik, the Gulam, and also the Tower Elephant later on in the game. He's actually going to get a couple of kills here on that gold vein. This is a bit of a problem for Crackedy. There's no outpost here. It means the gold is very exposed. And that's going to delay any possible consideration to go to the castle age. Not that he's thinking that anyway, because there's a lot of units here for the Byzantines. All of a sudden now, those early horsemen, the ONLY Bannerman, did a bit of damage, but the Japanese civilization is now under attack, and those villagers on the farms are going to have to garrison inside the Cura storehouse. That's actually a nice little bonus that they get. The fact that you can garrison inside the Cura storehouse to protect those villagers. I think it's a really nice kind of addition there. Need to be careful though on that wood line. Good micro there by Crackedy to keep those villagers alive. It's always a threat, right? The Keshiks are always a threat. Gives you that Mongols vibes, and they can always look to raid. It does get a villager in the end. And it's looking to get the hardened samurai upgrade. So I think Crackedy here might be teching in. Let's just see what production buildings he's got. 2 barracks for now and a stable. And you can see the hardened samurai are on the field. Now he will need a katana bannerman to be able to increase the damage output for these guys. So it's very specific. You need a katana bannerman for infantry. And you need an ONLY bannerman for the cavalry. Now transitioning into the olive groves, which will give the Byzantines both food and olive oil, and that'll help them, you know, get that mercenary production up. And that will certainly help them in the late game for sure, with the extra olive oil coming in. Alright, Crackedy trying to get the walls up. Needs to back away for now. There's 2 Keshiks being a pest for him. But we'll push that back with what he has already at home, which is quite nice. Got to be careful of the villagers on gold. The Keshiks just ride by and don't ride in. Bit of an oversight there for elyona, focusing on other things, of course. Alright, he does now spot it. He's going to raid that. Quite possibly. Anyway, he's going to escape with the 2 Keshiks, dragging away a lot of the Japanese army. He does dive in now. There might be a couple more dead villagers on that gold vein. At least one. Wait, what? Did that not hit? I felt like that should have hit. Oh, that's really unfortunate. Oof. Managed to save those villagers. Quite surprising, though. Any case in the south? Well, it continues the chase in the middle of the map. There's quite a lot of limitane, so I'm not sure he really wants to engage with that. Does back away with the Bannerman. That's not really a fight you can decide to take. I mean, the good thing about the Japanese in this fight, I think it gives you the vibes of the English and the Holy Roman Empire. The reason why I say that is because of the samurai. They're a very heavy kind of melee unit, which only other 2 civilizations actually get that. You got the man-at-arms, of course, with the English and the HRE. But other than that, I mean, it does give you a nice little boost here for the Japanese. I feel like the samurai will scale really well as well. I like this choice for Crackedy because if the game does go for a bit longer, we might lose a village on the farms, though. Oh, just garrisons inside. Not enough to one-shot there, the 2 Keshiks. Just needs another one there, really. Trying to wall up in the south, and I think it's a good play here by Crackedy to try and wall up. He's under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of mobility coming out for the Byzantines. The mercenary choice is actually a really interesting one. Does change things up a bit, right? Because we do often see people go for the Western mercenary contract, which gives them access to longbows. A lot more static. They just can't get around the map as well as Keshiks can. And the Keshiks proving their worth. But the samurai will take care of this, that's for sure. The limitane won't survive that, and I'm sure the village will come out to wall this up. I think if Crackedy can get those walls up, though, that would be really helping his cause, because there's a lot of idle economy here being garrisoned inside the Cura storehouse. In any case, speaking of economy, both players are on 40 villages apiece. And all of a sudden, the Byzantines are starting coming alive with their military. I've got to say, the mercenary house is paying for itself. And that is for sure. But I certainly think the fact that he's going for the samurai Crackedy here, it's really quite a nice addition because it's going to scale really well to the castle age, right? There could be an opportunity here because what will happen with the Byzantines in often cases, and many other civilizations, they've got a very heavy feudal age army, right? What I mean by that is units that don't necessarily have hard counters to them. In the what I'm saying is the man-at-arms, basically to try and counter them, you're going to need crossbows, really. You can kind of hold against them with knights and keshiks, generally. But they all scale really well, right? So the archers become a bit redundant, the limitani become a bit redundant when you start thinking about samurai. And he's already started that production, so there could be an opportunity for Crackedy here. When he does get to that castle age, he gets that veterancy upgrades, and he can start decimating the Byzantine army. But the question is whether that'll happen, whether the Byzantines can clear them up before that. A couple of Han samurai. Just the good thing about the Keshiks, just a handful of them, is keeping the Japanese army at home. That's exactly what the Byzantines really want at this stage. Because he's going to be going up to the castle age first. He's almost there. There he is. He's going to go up with a golden horn tower. That's going to give him 3 units, by the way. 3 mercenary units, I should clarify. Depending on the water level and the bonus that comes in with the cistern. Really rushing it up as well. He's not messing about. He wants 19 villagers building that. But at the moment, his standing army is pretty much limitani and archers. A couple of keshiks in there, to be fair. But he's going to have to upgrade that contract to get them to become veteran units. And this is where things become a bit interesting, because if Crackedy here, which he's probably going to do, he's going to go up to the next stage pretty soon. I would have thought. Maybe not actually. He's going to stick around in the feudal age for a while. Doesn't have the gold he needs. That gold has always been under pressure, right? It's been difficult for him to gather that. But now with elyona, up to the castle age, Crackedy does have some choices to make. He can either try and put some pressure on now before the veterancy upgrades comes in, or he can look to wall up and hide back at home and keep his army safe. Which one he should do, I'm not so sure. Maybe he could do half and half, bring the infantry back home and take their horsemen back forward. And that's exactly what he's actually going to do. It's actually kind of fun to see, because with the horsemen, he's not in too much of a problem in terms of running away. He doesn't have to engage with these guys if he doesn't have to. He can always just kind of see where elyona is, just kind of drag the army away from his main base. That's kind of what he needs to do, right? Crackedy here at this point needs to buy himself some time to get to that castle age. He does have a lot of food, I gotta say. Now, just say one thing about that. That food income is absolutely insane. It's 1,200 at the minute. He's only got 26 villages on that food, and it's because of the farms, right? He's got the daimyo palace now, so that's going to be an extra 50% harvest rate on all of these farms. Well, not all of these, but I think it's a 3 farm range, so I think this one's counted. But it's a heck of a lot of food coming in, and I love to see this raiding here. It's causing the Byzantines to stay at home, which is exactly where Crackedy wants his army to be calling the Byzantines to. Does get the veterancy upgrades now, so it would be a bad idea to fight this. It was a bad idea before the veterancy upgrades, to be fair, but now that fight would be even worse. Is walling up in the north. Elyona making sure that it can't be raided from that angle. And now all of a sudden, well, Crackedy is on the way to the castle age with a floating gate landmark. And I think where things could become really interesting is if he does start to get a lot more gold in the bank, he's going to really start to outproduce the Byzantines because of the Yorishiro. The question is whether he decides to use the Yorishiro on production buildings or whether he decides to use it for economy bases. You could put it in the town center because that's actually a really nice boost to the villagers. It gathers or makes the villager training time a lot less. Let's take a look. Production speed increased by 25%. Going to be giving them in 16 seconds as opposed to the usual 20. Veteran Limitani and archers heading forward. Going to be trying to burn down the forge and maybe the outpost. It's going to be trying to put some pressure before the castle age veterancy upgrades come in, right? But the thing is for Elyona, he's upgraded his Limitani and upgraded his archers. He's up against samurai. We talked about this earlier. Horsemen coming in from the west side as well, just to get us around on those archers. But there are Keshiks chasing. It's not a great fight for Crackedy though in that little crevice between the stone mine and the forge. He turns around though to engage against the Keshiks, and I think the samurai are probably going to sweep all of this up. Fighting underneath the outpost, not advised. And I think with the defender's advantage, Crackedyhere should be okay. The only problem for him might be the Keshiks, but he does have the castle age veterancy upgrades for the samurai, so he should be fine. He's also got a katana bannerman. That makes a big difference. Increases the output of damage by 15%. And he sweeps through the Keshiks, and that only leaves the archers. Those archers won't be able to do anything against the samurai. The samurai continuing the chase, and it really shows you in this game how having that standing army of samurai to scale into the castle age really well has made a big difference at this stage of the game. We're only 18 minutes in. Things can change. And for Elyona's sake, we hope they do. At the back of this, he might start to get some Varangian guards of his own. Some heavy melee armoured units. Might look about getting some crossbows too. As he's starting to engage, going to try and keep the archers alive for as much as possible. But at this point, with the heavily armoured units, the archers are not a unit that he's going to want to keep taking into for long. The samurai taking care of that front line, and yeah, that's a hard situation for Elyona. Has to back away, tries to survive for as long as possible. Varangian guards trying to hold on. Uma Bannerman nearly dead actually. You might want to try and snipe that. Although there aren't that many cavalry anyway, to be fair, so the archers are backing away as best they can. But I think Crackedy smells blood, right? He wants to dive on this as much as he can, wants to take as many of the archers as he can. The Uma Bannerman does die. Horseman diving in. Varangian guards holding firm. Does have a couple of Keshiks. Varangian guards coming from the back line as reinforcements. But I love what Crackedy's doing. He's peeling off just a couple of samurai, just 3 of them. He's going to keep a lot of the economy idle there for Elyona. In any case, a lot of the front line is going down for Elyona. He's not able to hold against those samurai. And those samurai are doing all sorts of damage. And this is going to get worse. He's going to get the Adachi upgrade. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be increasing the bonus damage by 4 against infantry. And what does Elyona have? It's infantry. He's lost all the Keshiks. Does now clean this up. But a lot of damage was caused. And Crackedy is going to look to reset. Going to head back home and regroup together. Probably a wise move here. Does now venture out into the gold. And I like this little bit of details as well for Crackedy, because he could quite simply be taking the gold at home. But he decides, no, I've got a bit of map control now, I've got units on the field, so let's just go a bit further afield, take some of the gold that's a bit more precarious, a bit more dangerous to get. But he does have to look to defend that in case Keshiks come again. Byzantines trying to look to move a bit further forward on the berries. Actually, that's something to bear in mind, by the way, guys. The map that we're playing on is Lipany, right? There's a lot more berry bushes, so it's actually quite suited for the Byzantines in terms of getting that olive oil. It's not necessarily just Delhi and Abbasid that we'll see on this map, and maybe even Ayyubids. In any case, a lot of the Varangian guards diving in. They do use the berserking ability. You can see that little red hue around it, but the katana bannerman and the samurai are going to be ripping through that. You can see it on Bageisha as well. That is actually a really interesting unit. I think it's a really dark horse for the Japanese, this unit, because it's got a 1-tile attack range. It's really deceptive, right? Like when you think about ranged units, you think, okay, they're further back, you can kind of tell when they're firing, but on a Geisha, they add a whole new dynamic to melee combat in Age of Empires 4. You've got the front line with the samurai that's going to engage against the bringing guards or keshiks or whatever they may be, but the Honour Geisha, they get a surface area of the attack that the other infantry just won't get. So it's actually quite unique to the Japanese. I really like that mechanic, and it'd be interesting to see how much of a difference that can make. Because of course you can only really usually have like one melee unit against one melee unit if they're in a straight line, but you've got the Honour Geisha just behind their own allied front shield, and they can just fight from the back. It's kind of weird because they've got that massive long sword, right? And it does mean that I feel like elyona is going to have to find a counter to that. The trouble is, the Honour Geisha are technically countered by like the Knight line and also archers. The trouble going archers, obviously, it's not worked up to now. It's not going to work now. Not with the samurai involved. So it almost feels like you've got to go for siege. Maybe mangonels is an option. But I do feel like samurai and Honour Geisha as an army composition could be incredibly strong for the Japanese. Now, speaking about incredibly strong for the Japanese, going up with the what do we call it? The floating gate landmark does mean that he's be able to get some of those relics quite nice and early with the Shinto priest. He's already got 3. And it's going to be looking to get that sacred site in the south as well. Going to be sending some keshiks though. Veteran keshiks, they have been upgraded for the Byzantines. Interesting that it's not going for any cataphracts. They are quite expensive units, but they're incredibly tanky. I think it's like 340 health or something. It's kind of crazy, the cataphracts. But they are very expensive. Speaking of expensive, that could be an expensive loss on the village on the front line if they do get taken on those berries. But here we are. There's the engagement. Varangian Guard trying to tank on the front line. Does lose a katana bannerman, actually. That's a good snipe by the archers. That's important because now these samurai don't have that attack speed. But you can see, look at that, the Honour Geisha absolutely decimating those Varangian Guards. It kind of alters the combat completely. The samurai are going to sweep over everything else, and villagers do need to back away. They're going to garrison inside the outpost. There's not enough space for them. I think he should be able to hold on here, elyona. Does have a lot of archers and crossbows. I think crossbows could be the way, actually, to deal with both the Honour Geisha and the samurai. Got to be careful, though, because the Honour Geisha are so fast, they can really gap close on those units. They can really dictate the terms of engagement. Keshik's going to push away the bannerman. In fact, the Honour Geisha really reminds me of the archer kind of fight you get against longbows. You kind of death balls. You kind of want to take a really meaningful engagement with the Honour Geisha because of how fast they can be. In many ways in this matchup, I feel like the Japanese can dictate the terms of engagement. There's a mounted samurai coming out for crackedy. They absolutely look amazing. Look at those guys. And one good thing though for elyona is he does start to get a lot of crossbows, right? So that'll deal well against the mounted samurai. Question is whether Honour Geisha will start to clamp down on those crossbows before they can do too much damage. Adding in a katana bannerman. It does have a lot of military here, elyona. 42 military versus 22, and crackedy needs to bide some time. Now he does have the shogunate castle. That's going to be increasing the farming harvest rate up to 75%. He's got 3 of the relics so far. And it's quite safe with his economy. He's now venturing out onto the northern gold as well. There's 8,000 gold there. It's kind of like a neutral gold, so it's important that he takes this nice and early. Just whilst he can. Does neutralize the sacred site in the north. Going to be heading forward with a mangonel. That's actually quite an important addition to this army here for crackedy. I like that thought because there's a lot of infantry coming out for elyona. It doesn't have any anti-siege. There's no springalds for him. In fact, the question is, does he even have a siege workshop? It doesn't appear to just yet. It's up towards level 4, so that would be a nice boost on that economy. Going to be giving him a good fit 20%. Harvesting rate on those villagers. Gathering rate. Alright, Keshik's going to be moving into the middle of the map. Might take an engagement here. Mangonel does deploy. Keshik's going to dive in against the mounted samurai. The Varangian guy's going to follow in. Mangonel gets a good shot on those crossbows. None of them die, but a lot of them are low health. They might get another couple of shots. Does peel away a couple of the veteran horsemen to try and take care of the crossbows. Another good mangonel shot there. On the front line, though, you can see the Honour Geisha. They are absolutely sweeping things up. And it just doesn't leave too much room for the Varangian Guards to do too much more damage, right? The Varangian Guards trying to hold on against the samurai, but the Honour Geisha just breathing down the necks of the samurai, adding to the fight. Another mangonel shot. And yeah, at this point, the Byzantines, they really need to add in some anti-siege. They definitely need those springals. They need them quick. Gets the sacred site in the south. Possibly looking to get the sacred site in the middle as well. Just sending a Keshik north, just to get some scouting information here, Elyona, just to see if he is on the gold. He's going to find this gold vein. Crackedy's got to be careful. He needs to get some outposts. Going to get in the second one. There's not enough space, though. This could be a big pick-off, right? Because Elyona's going to see this. Just misses, actually. Didn't actually have this map scouted. He's going to scout it now. Better late than never, I guess. Sees the house, but it gives that attack notification now. Crackedy should back away with any villagers that might be there. That's exactly what he does. Well, that's really unfortunate, actually. Attacking that house. He was on attack move, right? The attack move really hurt him. He's going to try and take those villagers that are retreating, though. Keshik's going to dive in. I don't think he gets that many. Needs to build another Shinto shrine here, Crackedy, to house that extra relic. Adding in a second mangonel, we definitely need to see some springles now, though this is going to be a destruction. He does have one cooking. Good thing he's got a springled emplacement in these outposts. Might still lose a couple of villagers, though. Maybe just the one. No, garrisons aside. Keeps them alive for now. A couple more Keshiks, though. Something that I think Crackedy does probably need to react to now, because there's 3 of them. If it was just one, it's probably fine. Yeah, he needs to react to this now. Not enough space. There's quite a few villagers here. 7 of them might be sniped. Gonna try and play a ring around the rosy. He's gonna send some more Varangian guards here, Elyona, just to try and clear that up. It is denying a bit of the gold income for Crackedy, but it doesn't really matter because he's got 2,000 in the bank. He'll be fine for a while. That's 3 mangonels. That's kind of a menacing sight. It's got to be careful here. Oh, okay. Well, he's got a mangonel placement in the outpost there. Sent a horseman there, Crackedy, just to see what he's up against, right? He sees that he's up against Varangian guards. The horseman about to dive in. They kind of tease a little bit, trying to pull the army forward. Does see the springalds, though. Only one. I don't think it's going to be enough. At this point, the mangonels might just even focus fire on that springald and take him out. Does take the engagement. The Varangian guards use their berserking ability. Mangonels get a huge shot on that front line. A couple of honor you can see how far away they are from the front fight, but they're actually still engaging. He does snipe out that springald, and that's a problem. That's a lot of infantry that might go down very quickly here. He's going to dive on top of that, though. A lot of Varangian guards. He might lose one mangonel, but the mangonels do seem to get a decent amount of damage out. I think Crackedy, he dished out some damage. Might need to head back home, though. Doesn't seem like it's enough to win the fight. Not just yet, anyway. All of a sudden now it's down to 30 military, but it shouldn't matter because he's got such a good bank of resources, right? Can't say the same for the Byzantines. Another 2 mangonels being added in, and Elyona, he just needs to take more cost-effective fights. I feel like Crackedy has been winning on that front. Okay, well, Elyona's sending his army north. He wants to be a bit more aggressive now. He's tired of staying at home. He's going to be attacking that gold vein, you feel. But it could be, I mean, this is kind of an interesting point in the game, right? Because he's pulling army towards the north. It leaves them pretty exposed in the south. I wonder whether Crackedy's going to try and follow that once he does get the attack notification. Or does he go straight for the jugular through the heart of the Byzantines economy? Not so sure. He's going to try and snipe out Mangonel. Doesn't quite get it with the Keshiks, I'm afraid. But that's going to be possible. Oh, he pulls the villagers away. He notices it. He takes the villagers north in the corner. He saves them for now. Can just see what he's up against with the horsemen. But this is a problem for Elyona because a lot of his army's not here, right? Crackedy might just catch him with his pants down because he doesn't have the army where he needs them. And that's a lot of units heading in. Uh-oh, Elyona. He's not going to get back in time. That's a lot of infantry. They're not particularly fast, of course. Mangonels going to be burning down that outpost very quickly. But the big detail are these horsemen and mounted samurai. They're going to raid quite heavily. They're going to go straight into the farms, or the olive groves, I should say. This is looking dicey. He's engaging on the front lines, and, well, that's going to be a lot of dead villagers in the wood. He's going to lose a couple of Cairo-siphons for free, and that's a problem. That is a big problem. A lot of villagers dying there on the olive groves, but he's being chased. A lot of the army being pulled back and forth. We were talking about how the Byzantines did that to the Japanese earlier, but, well, it's the Japanese doing it now. That's a huge mangonel shot on the Varangian guards. They couldn't get close enough. 3 mangonels, that's enough to dish out a lot of damage. 2 springals though for Elyona. He needs to try and snipe out those mangonels if he can. Gonna have to head back now. A lot of the crossbows not keeping up with the Cairo-siphon. The Cairo-siphon really slowing it down, but a lot of villagers on that wood line dying there. Elyona not reacting in time, and that is a huge problem. He's plummeting in villager count, down to 60 so far. A lot of the economy is idle as well. Olive Grove's completely empty. That wood line being decimated. He's engaging the front lines as well, and mangonel shots, huge mangonel shots, take out the springald, and now there's not enough anti-siege against this. He's got a massive front line with the samurai. He's down to 49 villagers. Does take out 1 mangonel, but at what cost? He's losing villagers on that wood line still. I think he took care of it, but look at the amount of damage that's come out. Absolutely huge, and I'm not so sure there's a way back from this. I mean, he might take out the mangonel. What after that? Samurai and the Onabagation are going to dive in on those crossbows, and they are in scattered formation, but at this point, it probably doesn't matter. Villagers coming out forward. I'm not sure where they're off to. In any case, I'm not sure it matters, because Elyona's down to 47 villages versus the 91 for Crackedy. He did so much damage on that wood line, and sure, the army has been cleared up, but how is he going to replace that army quick enough if he loses this batch? If he loses this batch of army here, Elyona, it's going to be difficult. That food income is already down to 700. Crackedy. He's definitely farming well. 2,600 food coming in per minute. Trying to get an outpost. This is probably the last push from Elyona, you feel, because once he loses his army, it's very difficult for him to replace on the economy he's got. 49 villages only. Keshiks dive in. Backed up by the Varangian guards. A couple of crossbows behind that. But it just might have to pull away from that outpost. It doesn't yet. Osman going to dive on the crossbows. And this is a great fight for the Japanese. He's got the defender's advantage. Onabagation diving in on the backs of the samurai. Going to be taking that front shield off. And that front shield, that army, if that gets taken down, there's not going to be left very much for the Byzantine army. That's a massive cleanup. A massive push back by the Onabagation. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Elyona taps out. That was the last push. He was down out on the villager count. He lost way too much on that wood line. Hope you guys enjoyed that casted game. Take care and see you next time.